I never thought I'd have to use my Marine training in my own driveway, but when 3 fake HOA enforcement officers put their hands on my wife, they made the biggest mistake of their pathetic lives. It was supposed to be a quiet Saturday morning in our suburban neighborhood. My wife Sarah was watering her flower garden, the same garden the HOA had been harassing us about for weeks. I was in the garage, working on my motorcycle, when I heard her scream. By the time I sprinted outside, one of them had grabbed her wrist, another was shoving her toward our front door, demanding entry to inspect violations. The third one was filming it all on his phone, laughing. They thought they were dealing with just another pushover homeowner. They had no idea they'd just awakened something they couldn't handle. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. Comment which country you're watching from, because HOA horror stories seem to be everywhere these days. My name's Mike, and I'm a 15-year Marine veteran. 3 tours overseas, came home to a quiet life with my wife Sarah, in what we thought was the perfect neighborhood. Tree-lined streets, good schools nearby, and yes, an HOA that promised to maintain property values and community standards. Sarah's a kindergarten teacher, the sweetest person you'll ever meet. She loves gardening, baking cookies for new neighbors, the whole 9 yards. When we moved in 2 years ago, she immediately started transforming our front yard into this beautiful garden. Roses, lavender, some native wildflowers. It was gorgeous, but apparently, gorgeous wasn't regulation compliant. It started with a letter. Our HOA president, this woman named Patricia Hendricks, think soccer mom Karen, with a law degree and way too much time on her hands, sent us a landscaping violation notice. According to her, our flower garden violated Section 12.4 of the HOA covenant, non-approved plantings in visible areas. Sarah was heartbroken. She'd spent months on that garden. But being the reasonable people we are, we attended the next HOA meeting to discuss it. Patricia shot us down immediately. Rules are rules, she said, arms crossed like a dictator. The garden goes, or you face fines. That's when I knew we were dealing with a power-hungry tyrant. The fines started at $50, then $100, then $250. Each letter got more aggressive, more threatening. Patricia wasn't just enforcing rules anymore, she was waging war. But here's the thing about Marines. We don't back down from bullies. I did my research, pulled the original HOA documents, state regulations, everything. Turns out, our garden was completely legal. The violation Patricia cited, it didn't even exist in the actual covenant. She was making stuff up. I presented this evidence at the next HOA meeting. You should have seen Patricia's face when I laid out the real documents, highlighted the actual regulations, and proved she'd been lying. The other board members looked embarrassed. A few neighbors actually applauded. Patricia's response: "We'll see about that." That's when things got scary. The harassment escalated. Letters claiming we had structural violations that required immediate inspection, notices about our excessive vehicle maintenance, because I worked on my motorcycle in my own garage. They even claimed our American flag was improperly displayed, and I'm a veteran who knows flag code better than the back of my hand. Sarah started getting nervous. She'd find people taking photos of our house at odd hours. Strange cars would park across the street, just watching. One morning she discovered someone had dumped trash on our garden during the night. I installed security cameras, motion sensors, started keeping detailed logs of every incident. My military training was kicking in. When you're under siege, you gather intelligence and prepare for escalation. What I didn't expect was how bold they'd get. Last Tuesday, Sarah came home from school to find 3 men in HOA enforcement uniforms standing in our driveway. They had official-looking badges, clipboards, the whole setup. They told her they were there for a mandatory compliance inspection and needed immediate access to our property. Sarah, being trusting, almost let them in. But something felt wrong. She asked to see their identification, and their badges looked fake, like something you'd buy at a costume shop. She told them she needed to call me first. That's when they got aggressive, started raising their voices, demanding entry, claiming they had legal authority to inspect our home. Sarah locked herself inside and called me at work. I raced home, but they were gone by the time I arrived. The security cameras caught everything though. 3 guys in fake uniforms, acting like wannabe cops, intimidating my wife on our own property. I called the real police, filed a report. The officer who responded was helpful, but said unless they actually committed a crime, there wasn't much they could do about aggressive HOA representatives. I also called the HOA management company. Guess what? They had no record of any enforcement officers. No inspection scheduled, no uniformed personnel authorized to visit our property. Patricia had hired thugs. Saturday morning I was ready for them. I'd spent the week reviewing the security footage, identifying their vehicle, even tracking down their license plate. These weren't professional investigators or legitimate contractors. They were just three local guys Patricia had hired to intimidate us into compliance. But I was a Marine sniper. I don't intimidate easily. When I heard Sarah scream, my training kicked in instantly. I moved fast but stayed calm, assessed the threat, identify objectives, neutralize with appropriate force. The scene I found made my blood boil. The biggest guy, probably 6'2", maybe 220, had Sarah's wrist twisted behind her back. He was forcing her toward our front door while barking orders about compliance inspections and authority to enter. The second guy was shorter but stockier, positioned like he was ready to block any interference. The third was skinny, nervous, holding his phone up to record everything. "Let go of my wife," I said, my voice deadly calm. They turned, and I could see the moment they realized they'd miscalculated. Big guy still had Sarah's wrist, but his grip loosened slightly. Stocky guy puffed up his chest, trying to look intimidating. "Sir, we're authorized HOA enforcement," Big guy announced, trying to sound official. "Your wife is interfering with a legitimate inspection." "No," I replied, stepping closer. "You're three guys in fake uniforms, who just committed assault." That's when Stocky guy made his move. He rushed me, probably thinking he could overwhelm me with brute force. Wrong choice. I sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, and used his own momentum to send him face first into my garage door. The sound of his nose breaking was audible from 20 feet away. Big guy released Sarah, and charged. Bigger mistake. I caught his wild swing, pivoted, and delivered a controlled strike to his solar plexus that dropped him to his knees, gasping for air. The third guy, phone guy, started backing toward their car, but I was already moving. "Stay right there," I commanded, using my military voice. Phone guy froze like a statue. "Sarah, call 911, I said, never taking my eyes off the three intruders. "Tell them we have trespassers who assaulted a homeowner." Big guy was still wheezing. Stocky guy was bleeding from his nose and moaning. Phone guy looked like he was about to cry. "Please don't hurt me." Phone guy whimpered. We were just doing what Patricia paid us to do, and there it was. The confession I needed. The real police arrived within 5 minutes. 3 squad cars, 4 officers, and suddenly my quiet suburban street looked like a crime scene. The fake enforcement officers tried to maintain their story at first, claiming they were legitimate HOA representatives with authority to inspect properties. But when the officers examined their costumes, because that's what they were, cheap Halloween costumes with fake badges, the whole charade fell apart. Phone guy cracked first. Turned out Patricia had hired them through some sketchy property management service she'd found online. Paid them $300 each to encourage compliance from problem homeowners. The assault on Sarah was supposed to be intimidation, but they'd gotten carried away. All 3 were arrested. Assault, trespassing, impersonating officials. The charges kept adding up. The real kicker, impersonating law enforcement officers is a felony in our state. Patricia tried to distance herself when the investigation reached her, but phone guy's video told the whole story. She'd explicitly instructed them to use whatever means necessary to gain entry to our home. Within a week, Patricia was facing criminal charges of her own. Conspiracy, harassment, filing false reports. Her legal bills were going to be astronomical. The HOA board held an emergency meeting and stripped Patricia of her presidency. Turns out, several other homeowners had similar experiences with her fake enforcement tactics. Our neighborhood Facebook group exploded with stories of harassment, illegal fines and intimidation. Sarah's garden. The new HOA board issued a formal apology and a statement confirming that our landscaping had never violated any legitimate regulations. But the best part? Patricia's house went up for sale 2 weeks later. Couldn't handle the legal pressure, the neighborhood backlash, and the fact that everyone now knew she was a fraud. They thought they could break into our lives, intimidate my wife, and force us to submit to their fake authority. But they didn't know who they were dealing with. Sometimes bullies only understand one language, strength, and sometimes, the skills you learn defending your country come in handy defending your home. What would you have done if 3 fake cops grabbed your spouse? Comment below. I read every single one. And if you want to hear more stories about HOA tyrants getting what they deserve, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, the next story involves a Karen who tried to have my neighbor's service dog removed from the neighborhood. She had no idea that neighbor was a disabled veteran, with friends in very high places.